Perfect. Thank you for that. Okay, so just to get started, I'm Jordan Smith. For those that didn't catch me earlier, or if you were just attending now, I'm a lead full stack .NET developer at Mariama, and I've been building software for over 10 years now. A good chunk of that was spent working with the UK government and the Ministry of Defence, working on accessible mobile healthcare applications. These apps delivered clinical data to people on the front lines. Accessibility wasn't a nice to have there. If it wasn't usable and accessible, people couldn't get the information that they needed. There could be clinical risks as well. So that experience was a big part of why I care about this stuff. And it's kind of why I've ended up building what I'm about to show you. Appreciate it's just a static screen at the moment, but we'll get into it quite shortly. But yeah, so I spend a lot of my time doing accessibility and quality audits. And the tooling out there is obviously quite good. There's a lot of stuff like Lighthouse, Axe, DA11Y, etc. But none of it quite fits the way that I actually work. The output isn't shaped the way I want it. The data quite often needs reformatting before I can act on it. And at the end of all this, I still have to sit down and manually write a stakeholder report from scratch every single time. The things that generally need my attention, such as manual testing, screen reader work, and likes, always end up getting squeezed because the automatable stuff ate up a lot of my time. So that's what led me to start building something to try and tackle that. So I've built what you can see here, which is called Pulse. It's an accessibility scanner. It can scan a site, it can find the violations, and it generates a company branded document that's ready for me to review. It's unique per client, per scan. It details all the violations. It gives code examples from the website on how to fix it. It also provides efforts on estimations, recommended sprints, and the likes. The document is essentially a draft starting point that's just ready for me to review, like I was saying. So I can basically give more of my time to focus on the stuff that needs human judgment as opposed to worrying about stuff that I can quite confidently automate to get the information that I need. So I'm not trying to rush it all together. You know, I'm essentially trying to find a way to allow me to work more efficiently and to really have time to focus on the stuff that I would say matters a lot. So essentially what I can get as well, when I run my tool, not only does it generate the stakeholder document, it also generates JSON data that I can feed back into an AI agent. So I can start assisting me to work on the automatable fixes while I still continue to focus on the manual testing. That's where I get the real value from this product that I've worked on. And it gives me time for the things that actually need me. So to begin with, this started off as just a simple Node.js tool, nothing fancy. I essentially just want something that I could point to a website, a URL, and just get information, data, what needs to be fixed, what the issues are, and the likes. But yeah, so I also wanted to make sure it was structured in a way that works for me, because that's one thing that I've noticed, like I was touching on earlier. The other tools are great, but obviously there's quite a lot of still manual work that I have to go through that kind of eats up a fair bit of time, considerable amount of time. But then that's what kind of started leading me further on this path of going from a node tool to creating the UI server that you see here just now. And just to give some more insights onto the tool, it's got AxScore for the accessibility checks, it's got Playwright to drive the browser, and likes. But obviously, once I had this all in place, the contrast between where I was spending my time and where I should have been spending it was quite obvious. I kept thinking of ways to make the data easier to digest because obviously for me, the node tool was easy enough to work with and gave me what I needed. But I started thinking about how people in my team might need something a bit more, you know, interactive to work with, something that's got a bit more visual flair to it, that's not just terminal lines. And essentially I wanted to also try and structure everything that I'm getting from these reports into the data that I want to see without any other noise. So that's one thing I've noticed about some tools as well. There's a lot of things that are important, but at the same time, not necessarily important for me. So also made this tool generate HTML report of all the issues. It's got screenshot annotations showing exactly where the violations are on the page between desktop and mobile. And I'll show you an example of this just in a moment. So there is another tool that lives with this, which is Pulse Quality, which does SEO checks, performance checks, security headers, broken links, and the likes. It shares the same core, but I'm not going to be really diving into that too much today. Yeah, so just a bit on why this matters to me and the problems that it actually solves is that the key thing here is the data that I get from this is trustworthy. It's not, I'm not relying on AI, so to speak. I'm not asking, like, it's not just generating the data from random sources. It's coming from Playwright. It's coming from the actual web page. The effort estimations, the recommended sprint breakdown that it gives as well are all generated from real scan data. There's no guesswork here. And for example, as well, the branded document evolves with the tool. So whenever I update the branded Word document, for example, adding in new sections or different logos, etc., that'll get carried over to the future scans as well. And it's something I'll just show shortly. And just another thing is like this tool doesn't replace the need for other tools like Lighthouse, etc. It's mostly just to give me something that works for me, that gives me the time to do stuff that actually needs a human's input. So a quick technical kind of overview of the tool. It's TypeScript, Node.js, and Playwright, and there's some Python in there as well. The headless Chromium browser visits every page, runs the checks, and captures screenshots. The main tool is Pulse AOMY that covers the WCAG 2.0 through to 2.2 compliance, violations, screenshot annotations, as I said, effort estimation, and it can even tab through pages automatically the flag elements that are also missing the visible focus indicator. As I said, there is the pulse quality stuff. I'm more than happy to go over that another time, or if anyone wants to catch up after it. But more just about the tool. It supports free crawl modes. It's got auto crawl, following links, and it can parse a sitemap, or it can take a list of URLs. And each page, like I said, gets checked across multiple viewports. And the output pipeline runs automatically, generates the JSON data, generates the HTML report and the Word report. So you get everything you need to basically have a very good starting point of your accessibility audit. You don't need to worry about collating all this information manually and putting it together yourself. And yeah, so just to show a test. It's down to 10. Obviously, I can't go into all the details and functionality of the tool today, but just to show you some of the things that it can do. You can specify the level you want to test against. You can exclude specific paths. You can do some keyboard navigation testing. But as it says here, there's limitations to that because obviously it can't be fully automated, but to try and give a good enough indication of where the issues lie. You can filter out specific rules and you can use authentication to get into websites that are behind authentication accordingly. So I'm not going to go into those because I don't want to bore you with this scan running. Although saying that, so let this start running. As you can see here, I got a bit carried away. So I've added a lot of stuff here. You're probably wondering, what does the Rocket add to accessibility? Nothing. But it makes watching the scan a bit nicer if you're actually sitting here and monitoring the log to see what sort of information is coming back. As you can see as well, should pop up any minute. There's some dialogue in there that I've made very cheesy. It has some accessibility puns. And there's a little 8-bit avatar of me. I'm the commander for some reason. I just went with that because it fits the overall look and feel. As you can see as well, there's some little bugs flying down the screen. These are in relation to the bugs that it's picking up from your website. So obviously it's not an exact count at the moment, but it's basically showing you the bugs slowly coming in. It gives you something more fun, I guess, to watch if you are monitoring it. And there's a little Easter egg just there for any gamers. Star Fox Pro in there. But yeah, so as you can see, this is just running along slowly. You can run it in the background. You can run it in the terminal mode, but I like this. So for just now, I could run concurrent scans. I could just let this do its thing, but I'll let it get to the end because I want to show some different variants of how it handles things. Because for example, if it runs into an error and completely fails, the rocket explodes and it just, mission ends, bugs take over. If everything is successful, the rocket flies off. Kind of get a message of reassurance that we've got the issues, we can move on from there. Actually, I will cancel this now because I don't want to waste everyone's time too much. But if we were to cancel this and abort the mission, see the rocket kind of loses its way. And you get a little message just saying, the mission must continue, so to speak. There is issues there, we need to fix them. But just to give you an example of what this generates, because I've built it so it can retain past scans and quickly relaunch scans as well. And also just a shout out to containing some information about sustainability, because I know that's a big thing. And it's also just about making sure that when people are using the tool, they're aware that it's not, having a negative impact, so to speak. But if I was to jump into one of these reports that I ran earlier today in true Blue Peter fashion, here's one I made earlier. Let it do its thing and just load in the log. True demo fashion, it goes slow when I'm trying to show something. Yeah, well, hopefully it won't take too much longer to load up the report. But just to continue on, so that's about here. Yeah, in the meantime, while that's loading, I'll show you the Word document because that's probably the most exciting part is how does that sound? So with every single scan that I run on the website, I get a report like this automatically generated for me like I was saying, it's not using AI to collate all this. It's using trusted data from Playwright, Arcs, etc. It's all credible information. So, for example, as you can see, it's quite a robust report. It's not to remove the need to do these manually, but it's to give us a better starting point so we can actually really put the time into the stuff that normally gets left behind. And I almost feel like this can kind of help with the buy-in as well because you know essentially we can generate this much quicker. I know there's tools out there that can do the same, but like I said, this is what works for me and my team. I can allow them to quickly run these reports quite easily. But just to quickly try and I say quickly, I'll try and go through it as quick as I can. You can see that there's a lot of information in here. It gives you a summary of the findings for stakeholders. It's got a glossary as well for people that might not be too up to speed with specific accessibility terms. It talks about the methodology, the tools used, details on manual testing as well, but stuff that this will not cover because obviously automation can't cover everything. Also says how the scan was conducted and it talks a bit about our standards and scope, the legal obligations as well. And once again, after adding in stuff about the sustainability of the tool, I decided to add a bit about the website because obviously the less issues you've got and the more accessible your website is, it's going to be more sustainable as well. So this gives you a bit of information, some recommendations on what you can do to improve things on your end, and also just more about the audit findings. So obviously these reports can greatly differ in regards to the amount of content that's added into it based on the type of scan that you do. So this one was a full sitemap scan, but yeah, it was still quite a small document, I would say, even though it's 47 pages. But yeah, so also kind of it details as much as it physically can so that, like I was saying, we can really just focus on the screen reader testing and lights because that's something that I'm putting more time into now that I've got enabled myself to do so. But just to continue scanning down because these bits are a bit dry. But yeah, so for example, once again, you get all the information here, it puts in the screenshots with annotations, tells you roughly what's wrong with it, where it is on the page, gives you an indication of the rules that are being broken, the impact of it as well, and it gives you some code examples and how to fix it. And scrolling down a bit more just to get past all this because it is just kind of duplicate information here. Yeah, so it comes down into here where I've put in a recommended remediation plan. That's given a rough indication of how we should handle this and sprint allocation. So it tries to handle that as well. Gives a rough estimated effort on development and also talks about third party findings, more information about what we can and can't cover with this tool, and just talking about responsibilities as well in regards to accessibility. So yeah, there's also the definition of done, just trying to add in as much information so stakeholders can really absorb this as well and understand the importance of adhering to accessibility guidelines. And just scroll down to a bit further to the bottom. There's also some next steps that basically just allow us to give the stakeholders a clear indication of what we want to do moving forward, i.e., get things put into a backlog of the recommended fixes, quick wins, and then kind of shift into things that are lower priority after that. And just go back to the scan. Okay, so it finally loaded. Lovely. So as you can see here, this is the HTML report. I built this in a way so that if you wanted to, not only with the Word document, you could bundle all this together as a standard single HTML file with the screenshots and send it to a client. Just another way to give them something visual to look at rather than just a Word document, because sometimes, it will just get glossed over. This may as well, but it's trying to put the information in a way that can be easily digested. So once again, like I was saying, there's some stuff about the site sustainability, the information about the scan that you've done, the type that it's done, the amount of pages that hit, etc. And a report summary for stakeholders, because I know obviously this is the most important thing to them. They're not going to care about the intricate details as such about, like the code, but it still gives them a very good indication of who's affected and what needs to be fixed. Down here as well, there's just very much the same information from the Word document, but it's just formatted in a different manner. It tells you how much rough time we're going to be needing to spend on this. It's all the estimations are based from the data from the reporting, so I'm confident that it's credible. If we go down to here, it gives you an indication on the pages scanned as well. You can click onto these, which takes you down to the section. I thought I clicked on the Mariama website, but I clicked on the UMBRAAD. But yeah, so this gives you indication on the amount of issues per page, everything that's passed, stuff that needs manually reviewed, gives you an indication of how long the pages take to load as well, and just the ability to hide the screenshots. I felt like this was quite useful because in some cases you don't get both, you just get one. Normally you would have to sift through about all, but I feel like having this is quite handy. This gives you a quick way to see what's going on and what needs to be rectified. And one thing that I feel that happens in accessibility reports a lot is that we talk about, the violations and the issues, but we don't necessarily highlight the wins, things that are good, things that are passing checks. So I've also added in these sections to make them a bit nicer. So even if it is a critical or a low score that they've got for their rating, it still shows all the things they're doing right. Hopefully encourage them to continue this. And just scroll back up so I can get out of this section quickly. Uh, Yeah, there's also the section about violations by rule, and then finally just about what this covers and its limitations to make sure that people are aware it's not a be all and end all. This is just my way to help me work more efficiently and to allow me and the team to, ensure that accessibility has been thought about throughout the project, but also really put the time into stuff that we can't automate, the stuff that really, in my opinion, matters and needs more time spent on it, as opposed to letting it get cut off near the end. And I think, yeah, so just some more information about the tool itself. At the moment, it's not really a product, so to speak. It's just something that lives locally on your machine. You can keep records of as many scans as you want. Um, this might work here, actually. I'll see if I can quickly show this. Just going back to this, sorry. It's not here just now. There's also a scan that gets added, like a scan trend that gets added to these documents that shows you the kind of overall picture of where you're at over the last month. So you can get an indication if things are improving or not. And yeah, as well as being able to view all this, you can delete any items you want. You can delete full sections of client folders if you wish, and the likes. And yeah, like I was saying, I think the main push for me to do this was just to create a tool that allows me to work more efficiently. I can get through, initial accessibility audits quite quickly now, confidently, and put the time into really what matters. In the terms of where this is heading, there is still some stuff from the client, the Node.js side of it that I want to import into this tool. But obviously, at the moment, I'm trying to get it down to a point that I'm happy with and that I could allow other people to use it to help them carry out accessibility audits as well. But yeah, so I guess just to go on a bit about, like what this means in practice, what does this change day to day? Whenever I'm doing accessibility reports, well, when I was doing them in the past, like I said, a lot of time was spent reformatting data, manually compiling reports, manual testing, and the stuff that really needed me was always left out. But now I can just allow this tool to run and scan the websites for me, and it gives me all the structured data reports that I need that I can basically then hand over to an AI agent. So, for example, Claude, I could give the JSON data to Claude, and that can start working through the issues that it can on my code base. So that gives me once again more time to focus on the stuff that automation or AI cannot handle. And yeah, the way I feel is this allows me to focus on the accessibility work that typically it gets rushed in at the end of a project. Now it's going to get the attention it deserves. And yeah, I guess some of the bigger points about this is the main reason why I wanted to show it is to try and help like somewhat motivate others to do something similar. I know there's like free tools out there or there's paid tools, but we're in an age where we can rapidly create our own services like this. It's commodity tech. It's you can build something meaningful in days, not months. And the only thing you've got to lose is time, really. It's not to suggest that we shouldn't be using other tools, but if you can build something for yourself that allows you to automate repetitive parts of your workflow, then why not just try it? Because, for example, it's going to give you far more time to focus on what matters. And yeah, like it doesn't need to be polished. It just needs to work for you. Like that's what I see with this just now. Like when I'm looking at it, there's a lot of things that I want to tweak. There's a lot of things I want to edit and change. And I've been up, I've had a lot of late nights the last couple of weeks working on this because I'm quite passionate about it. But yeah, I think that's something we should all be trying to do. Like we should all be building accessible products and tools like this help make sure that it's not something that gets cut when deadlines are tight. So I'd like to say like don't skip the link between the tools that you use and that workflow that you actually need. If you can find a way to give yourself more time for the work that matters, I would just build it. Nothing to lose. But I appreciate I've kind of waffled a bit there, so I'll probably try and wrap up there. Um, if there's not time for questions and answers, I'd be more than happy to jump on a call or answer any questions in the chat, or if anyone wants me to run this against our website or show them a bit more about what I've done, send them some example documentation that it generates. More than happy to do that. But I would just like to say thank you so much for your time today and allowing me to attend the talk. Also, big thanks to Mariama for supporting me and allowing me to attend as well. Yeah, if there is anything else you'd like to see, any more lovely rockets flying during a scan, please let me know, and I'd love to catch up with some of you and talk about it a bit more.